I got an email that said, I have perused your entire podcast list so far and have not found one where you have a guest or yourself talking about opportunities for physicians in other industries, such as tech, pharma, or consulting. It would be great to hear more about these avenues from people who are doing it full time or part time or as a side gig to increase income. What are the pros and cons? What type of income can we expect? Where do we find such jobs? And can academic physicians do these as a side gig too? Well, I always think it's interesting. I get people that ask me questions like this, and they're like, the podcast hasn't covered this. And I'm like, it hasn't? I mean, we got 277 episodes out there now, plus a bunch of Milestone to Millionaire podcasts. It's hard for me to believe there's any subject that we haven't hit yet, but it's entirely possible that we have not hit some subjects. However, keep in mind the podcast does not exist in isolation. There is a whole website out there with 2,500, 3,000, I don't know how many posts on it. And there are certainly a lot of posts on the blog about side gigs, about non-clinical work. For example, if I go to that search box in the upper right of the website at whitecoatinvestor.com and put in non-clinical work, I pull up a post called 5 Ways to Get Out of Clinical Medicine. Another one, 7 physician side gigs, pros and cons of each. Another one, how to make extra money as a physician. The next one, the list of physician side hustles. Another one, a side hustle to consider, medical, legal, or insurance consulting. The next one, how being an expert witness can make you a better doctor. Another one, a career in biotechnology for physicians and scientists, right? We got lots of material out there about side gigs, about non-clinical income opportunities. We just ran a post recently about surveys that you can take. So there's lots of stuff out there. But let's go through a little bit of this material that is there, just so it exists also in podcast form, and talk a little bit about it. For example, 5 ways out of clinical medicine. Well, the first one's retiring early. Lots of people do that, right? A great source of non-clinical income is the dividends from, stock index funds, the rents from real estate, the interest payments from bonds and savings accounts and CDs, right? That's one option to get out of clinical medicine, to provide a side income, is your investments, right? And so hopefully you're working on that as you go along. Another thing you can do is fix your job, right? Because a lot of times the thing that's driving people out of clinical medicine is they're just in a toxic job. They either need to change jobs or fix that job. So keep that in mind. Entrepreneurial pursuits, right? Maybe the best pathway out of medicine. High risk. One of the great things about medicine and really law and pharmacy and all kinds of other fields is that you get a high income, but most importantly, it's fairly guaranteed. Not so much in law as in medicine. But the vast majority of people that graduate from medical school end up making a pretty good income. There's not a lot of risk there. That's not the case with entrepreneurial pursuits. Yes, there's a possibility to have a massive income, but the truth is most small businesses fail. Most entrepreneurial pursuits don't go anywhere, but it is an option. Of course, another way out is non-medical jobs, right? It might require another degree, like a JD or an MBA or something like that, or a financial advisor certification. And a lot of people actually leave medicine and do something that pays a lot less, the encore career kind of folks. They want to go be a rafting guide or something. That's an option as well. But the vast majority of people take the fifth option, which is some sort of medical job, right? You're taking advantage of these skills and knowledge you have, but you're not in clinical medicine. And they may be doing medical writing, resource utilization, health insurance, medical legal work, pharma, managed care, lots of options there. You can even move into administration in the hospital or practice management consulting, working in information systems, lots of options there. And once you have a medical school education, a residency training, and you've been practicing for a few years, you're really valuable to a lot of companies out there, and they'll pay for your expertise in that regard. Here is a really great post we ran in January of 2021, 7 physician side gigs for extra income. And this was actually a guest post from an emergency doc, Dr. David Baran. Let me go through the 7 physician side hustles that he blogged about in that blog post. The first one was a file review for medications. And the best part about this post is he's done a lot of this stuff, right? He was hired as an independent contractor by a company who wanted docs to review medications. They wanted to minimize the use of opiates, and maximize non-opiates for chronic pain patients. And so he'd get charts electronically, answer questions about each patient, a phone call with the prescribing physician, and actually he got out of the phone call part later on. But his pay ranged from about what he gets for a typical clinical hour to about half of that. So it just depended on how long the gig was for that. But he liked that it was flexible and easy to do and decent pay, and it was consistent work. Okay, another thing he did was file review for peer review. Again, he was an independent contractor for a company that did external peer reviews. A hospital needs someone to review a physician's care. And then the company would come to you when it was a physician in your specialty. So you'd fill out questions in a report format, and you had a certain time period you had to do it. So he negotiated an hourly rate with the company. It ended up being a little bit less than he made clinically, about 75% of what he was making clinically. He was told that was a high rate, um, but apparently it was still pretty intellectually stimulating, but it was kind of irregular work. It was pretty choppy, was his complaint about it. Um, Side hustle number 3, administration, right? Lots of us have done administrative work off and on throughout our careers. And he did increasingly larger jobs until he acquired an administrative title. He became proficient writing reports, and eventually he became the only one who knew how to do that. So he became more valuable. Again, his pay was less than his clinical pay was, 50 to 75% of what he was making. But he liked getting paid to strategize and work at the system level. Um, like anything in administration, he said there were cons. He says the grass is only greener in administration because there's more crap to fertilize it. So there are some downsides to being in administration for sure. All right, the next one, pharmaceutical research for third parties. He put some information on LinkedIn. A third party contacted him that was doing research for a major drug company. They paid a lot more than he was making clinically, about 150% of what he was making clinically for the actual time of training and work. Um, and of course, they covered all of his costs. He liked learning a new skill set. He liked making more money, he liked getting some insight into the research industry. Um, he didn't feel like there's anything unethical about it, but it still felt a little bit like he had sold out. Next thing was expert witnessing. He put his name on the American Medical Forensic Specialist website and uploaded a bio there. He was contacted by some law firms that paid him to be a witness on a case. He made 125 to 150% of what he was making clinically, and got to negotiate that himself. He saw the big pro as learning what attorneys look for in a medical legal case. But the con was that he felt like there was kind of an unwritten rule about how much you could actually do this before you start looking like a hired gun. His number 6 side hustle was being interviewed by industry for new drugs and processes. He ended up making good money with that, about 150% of what he was making clinically. The pros were that it was interesting work, and you learned about a new industry, but again, it was kind of spotty, choppy work. It wasn't regular. It wasn't something that he could do and count on that to put food on the table. And then his last one was medical writing. He started a blog. As you've seen from the White Coat Investor, they're starting a blog's easy, growing it's not quite so easy. His problem was he hasn't made any money doing it, which is the case for most bloggers. He said he's made about 53 cents. That doesn't surprise me, given that my first year blogging, I think we brought in $900 in revenue and had expenses that were at least equal to that. So that's not too unusual. The nice thing is there's no right or wrong way to do it. Anybody can get started, and you get to take it whatever direction you want to do. So those are some great, non-clinical physician side gigs. We have another post on the blog that's called The List of Physician Side Hustles, right? And this thing's got, I don't know, there must be 60 or 80 different side hustles listed here. Everything from doing freelance work on Upwork or Fiverr to teaching Pilates to becoming a venture capitalist, to selling items on eBay or Etsy, to purchasing a franchise. In fact, we did a podcast not that long ago about non-food franchising. So that's another, non-clinical option. At any rate, my point is there's lots and lots of different things that you can do. In fact, why don't we get Gretchen Green on the line here. She's one of our partners. She's put together a course on expert witnessing. So let's get her on the line. She can tell you a little bit about that course while we're talking about this subject. Okay, in this episode, we've been talking about all kinds of side hustles and non clinical income options. And here with us as a special guest is Dr. Gretchen Green, who's going to tell us a little bit more about expert witnessing. She actually teaches a course about how you can become an expert witness. It basically takes you soup to nuts, and will teach you what you need to know in order to engage in an expert witness side hustle. But that course is actually enrolling right now. From between August 19th and August 29th, you can enroll in the course. And then it's going to be closed for months and months. So you come through these courses as a cohort with other people. So it's going to be live as soon as you enroll in the course, and you can enroll in that at whitecoatinvestor.com/expert witness. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that course after we finish this after we finish this interview. But Gretchen, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me back.
What kind of feedback are you getting from your students that have taken the course in the past?
Time flies since 2020 when I founded this course, and I've already had students successfully complete trials. They have launched and built their expert witness businesses. They have put these skills to work. They have found additional benefits, as I'm sure, you're discussing, with additional side gig income that has truly changed their lives. I love getting photos of my expert students in their suits as they're going to the courthouse, when they're preparing for depositions, and afterward when they've said what they've learned, what they'll change, and how they'll modify their approach to increase their success in the future. It's just been so exciting to see everybody's success.
Well, they've got to have a use for that suit that they last wore while interviewing for residency, right? What
Exactly.
do you find most of your students are doing work both for plaintiffs and defendants, just defendants, or how does that typically split down? Do you know?
Yeah, I think they're all doing a really good job of balancing this objective approach to expert witness work that's so important. That, my students understand that we're reviewing cases objectively, regardless of who calls, that this is part of how you build your skill set as an expert from both the plaintiff and the defense side. Ultimately, this is the kind of thinking and skill building that makes us better doctors. And that's really, I think, the best benefit of having these types of skills, is that we can positively influence patient care for the better.
Now, this is one of those side gigs that you kind of need to still be practicing, right? You can't just leave medicine and then expect to carry a lot of weight in the courtroom as an expert witness for long, can you?
That's true. You do need to be practicing clinically. There are some state regulations that vary, but they will allow you, if you retire, to finish out certain cases in certain timeframes, typically 12 to 18 months. But by and large, this is something that you do while you are actively clinically practicing. The good news is, though, that this does vary and the requirements are fairly low compared to what we consider full time in medicine. As you always say, if you want to cut back your hours, try first going full time. And this is exactly true, that doctors think that that we're not working full time if we're not working 80 hours a week. But you can be practicing a couple days a week. I have been decreasing my clinical time now over the past few years to about 2.5 days a week. And that fits really well with doing expert witness work as a side gig. Even someone who's billing an average rate as a physician, as an expert, with 3 to 4 hours of expert witness work per week can generate 100,000 in side gig income every year.
Yeah. What is the typical hourly that people are asking and getting for expert witness work?
Normally, this range is between $500 and $900 an hour. And this is something that shocks a lot of docs when we're looking at contract negotiation and the hourly rate that we get paid typically for clinical work. This work is reimbursed at a high rate, typically higher for surgical subspecialties, but there's no minimizing the impact that general practices like internal medicine, family medicine, even those specialties who see more general populations are still billing at the $500, $600 per hour rate, and can typically have a lot of case volume because that's just the population that has a lot of cases, period. So when you're working from a big denominator, you're going to get a good volume of cases that are available for experts to take.
Somebody out there just heard $600 an hour or $900 an hour, and now they're interested. So tell us what's in the course. What are they going to learn when they take your course?
This is the course that I wish I had had in as one-stop shopping when I started out. It covers everything from how you handle that first call from a lawyer out of the blue so that you know exactly what to say, you know exactly what materials to provide, how you craft a CV to best highlight your skills and expertise, all the way through case organization, how to communicate with folks in the legal field, how to help educate and bring your best information and knowledge to educate lawyers, juries, trial and deposition situations, and then also the business building aspects. And this is something that I never anticipated when I became an expert, was just how much business building I would learn and how that would set the stage for me to do so many other entrepreneurial efforts, not including not accepting a real estate, but then also founding this course. Once you build these skills, there's no limit to how they translate to new opportunities you can create in your life.
So you can start the course as soon as you enroll. How long does it take? If you're a motivated student, how quickly can you get through the course?
The course runs over a 4-week period. We've accelerated it so that people can get all the information that they want quickly, and you're ready to go as soon as 4 weeks. You can, of course, start building your lawyer network as soon as you start the course and work pretty quickly through those modules. We've got 2 or 3 that go live each week, and then with a live Q&A session at the end of those 4 weeks so that people can really get going, get their questions answered, and build a network with other experts through the Expert Resource Facebook group.
Now, this course isn't cheap, so this is for serious people only. I mean, this isn't for someone that's just dabbling. It's someone that's serious about becoming an expert witness. It's $3,197, but it now includes CME, correct?
It does. And this is a great example of physician innovation that has expanded to the digital course community and made it possible for us to offer this at a really affordable rate without having to increase the course cost much. And the great thing is, this course pays for itself with your first case. As soon as you get going, you get one case retained, your course is going to pay for itself. And then multiple times after, when you know from the beginning that you're billing at an industry appropriate rate and how to structure it to make the most of your business. So also it's typically tax deductible, although this always depends on people's individual circumstances. So it's really a no lose proposition.
Yeah, tax deductible, or could use your CME fund to purchase it now that it provides CME. Is there any sort of guarantee? Is there a money back guarantee or anything if they get into it and decide, maybe I don't want this?
We do, for the first week, offer a money back guarantee. We ask that you demonstrate that you've done the modules, that you've gotten your questions answered. Yeah, I'm really accessible during the course, and I try really hard to offer that level of support that people expect from getting to learn from someone like me who can show them the ropes firsthand. I've had only very few people ever ask for a refund, and it was typically because of outside, life circumstances and things. Universally have received great feedback about the course. So we do offer it, just hardly ever anybody uses it.
Awesome. Well, we
The
really
refund,
appreciate.
that is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We really appreciate you coming on
Right.
and telling us more about it. For those who are interested, whitecoatinvestor.com/expert witness. And if you buy through that White Coat Investor affiliate link, we're going to throw in a special bonus. We're going to throw in our 2021 CFE course absolutely for free. And that is another $779 value. Teaches you all kinds of stuff about personal finance, about financial wellness, about regular wellness, and it's good for another 17 hours of CME. So now we're talking about a total of 29 hours of CME you're going to get for this. That is probably your entire annual allocation for CME. So whitecoatinvestor.com/expert witness. Thank you so much, Gretchen, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, that's always wonderful to hear from Gretchen. Great course, hearing great things about it. Haven't had a single complaint. And even if there was, you can get your money back, right? Nothing to lose. That's one of the things I love about these courses docs are putting together online is they almost always come, just like ours do, with a money back guarantee. So although some are more expensive than others, if you don't like it, get your money back. What have you lost? Just your time. So check that out. whitecoatinvestor.com/expert witness.
The hosts of the White Coat Investor podcast are not licensed accountants, attorneys, or financial advisors. This podcast is free entertainment and information only. It should not be considered professional or personalized financial advice. You should consult the appropriate professional for specific advice relating to your situation.